Hey, Brandon. Brandon. I'm talking to you, Brandon. Brandon. Oh, hey. Oh, I was all in my head, I'm kind of crazy, What's going on? Hey, Brandon. Your tribe and the teachings of your tribe. What has your tribe been teaching you of marriage and sex and virginity and stuff, What are the teachings of your tribe? Brandy? The teachings my tribe taught to me of virginity and marriage and sex and stuff is the same teachings of the church, saving virginity for the purpose of being married. And virginity means voluntary going all the way sex. Inside a person's mouth or womb or butt. When wet stuff comes out of the male private part and goes inside the mouth or womb or butt of another person, or if the male is too young or if the male is too old and wet stuff is not able of coming out, then if he voluntarily had an orgasm inside the mouth or womb or butt of another person, it still counts as doing it or sex or going all the way, if he did it voluntarily, and they say it's worse if he bragged about it and stuff like that, so I never did any of it, I saved my virginity, my voluntary going all the way sex of, what my tribe teaches of sex being for the purpose of being married, The teachings my tribe taught to me, started with the same teachings the church taught. To me, saving sex, being virginity for the purpose of marriage, you know, being married. And you know what it means with virginity, you're voluntary going all the way 6. So if I said I saved my virginity for the purpose of being married, then it means I saved my voluntary going all the way 6 for the purpose of being married. And it means I never had sex outside of the identity of what my marriage license certificate says my marriage is, which is evidence of for the purpose of being married, you know. And my age is 39 years old today, so you know. For a long time, doing the job of following the instructions of saving my virginity for the purpose of being married, you know, for a long time, following the instructions of the church, you know, for a long time, following the instructions of my tribe, you know, for a long time, following the instructions of believing in the God of saving virginity, saving sex, voluntary going all the way 6 for the purpose of being married, you know, following instructions of a higher authority, you know. And no matter how many different people of different ages, of different shapes and sizes and colors and tones and ways and styles and being tempted and all of the feelings and tingliness and thoughts and ideas and passions and what feels like some type of love or some type of lust or some kind of strong feeling or some kind of, I don't know what it is, or some kind of want or need. No matter how many of those feelings happened, you know, for a long time, according to what the calendar says, of being 39 years old today, I followed the instructions of saving my virginity, my going all the way 6, my voluntary going all the way 6 for the purpose of marriage, you know. Is what the teachings of my tribe taught me, you know. And they say it's very important because my tribe says when a person saves virginity for the purpose of being married, then it means when the same person who saved virginity for the purpose of being married starts having voluntary going all the way sex for the purpose of being married, the only sex the person ever had would be having sex with the person claiming being married, you know? And what it would mean is there would be no way of saying better or worse, because if a person never had sex before outside of the identity of what a marriage license certificate says a marriage is, then inside of a marriage of the type of marriage where a person saved their virginity for the purpose of being married, well, inside of a marriage of the type would mean if someone asked of the worst sex or the best sex, or was or better or worse, the person with the character of saving virginity would not know the answer. For a question of such, because the person with the character of saving virginity for the purpose of being married would only know of the only sex the person ever had was for the purpose of being married, and would not know if some is better. The person would not know if some are worse. The person would not know. It would be no comparison, they say, because if the person never had sex with anyone outside of the identity of the marriage license certificate, and then it would be no other person for judging or comparing what it feels like having sex with, because the only sex the person who saved virginity for the purpose of being married knows of is the sex the person had for the purpose of being married, and would think, oh, so sex must be you know, whatever it felt like when the person who saved virginity for the purpose of being married was having sex for the purpose of being married with someone who, for the purpose of being married, should have been using the identity of a marriage license certificate as evidence of a marriage, because according to what my tribe teaches me, evidence of a marriage license certificate would be evidence of a marriage. So if anyone asked why was the person having sex, then the person would show a marriage license certificate and say his name and her name and with a marriage license certificate being evidence of why the person was having sex, whether it was him having sex or whether it was her having sex, the evidence of the marriage license certificate would be evidence of why the person was having sex, you know. And the marriage license certificate would show, and they would say, is it him she was having sex with? And the marriage license certificate would show, and they would say, is it her he was having sex with? Because if she was having sex with him, her own husband, and if he was having sex with her, his own wife, then there's nothing we could do, because, you know, she is his wife, a gift for him, and he is her husband, a gift for her. You know, according to what my tribe teaches me. And a gift means giving. And when he is giving for her, being her property, he is hers. Her husband is her property, because he is her gift. And when she is given to him, his wife, she is his property, a gift given to him, you know. And according to my tribe of what being a married couple is, or what I said, so, you know, they say the same way most all of the churches, most every church I ever went to preached of saving virginity for the purpose of marriage, you know. Would mean that if a person asks, has a person ever had sex with anyone outside of the identity of the marriage license of the person's marriage, then the best answer is when the truth is a person has the character of never having sex outside of the identity of the same person's marriage license certificate. Meaning, every time the person had sex, you know, going all the way sex, it was with the person using the marriage license certificate identity of being a married couple, using the same names, the same birth certificates, the same marriage license, the same social security number, and claiming being married and never had sex outside of the identity of, according to the marriage license certificate, of what was presented in public and private as being a married couple, is what they say the best answer would be if the truth of a marriage, a couple, matches the character of claiming being such a couple where at least one saved their virginity for marriage. They say sometimes the husband is the one with the character of saving his virginity for the purpose of being married. They say sometimes the wife is the one with the character of saving her virginity for the purpose of being married. They say it's very rare for both having the character of saving their virginity for the purpose of being married, you know. And they say no one is sure if it ever happened, if it was ever a situation where both the husband and the wife had the character of saving their virginity for the purpose of being married, you know. So, you know, I'm not sure if it ever happened, you know, if no one is claiming being a couple of husband and wife with both claiming saving virginity for the purpose of being married. There is no evidence of anyone telling me of such a couple claiming being a husband and a wife, with both having the character of saving their virginity for the purpose of being married. That it's not a person or of any gender, you know, a person. It's not a person I've ever met, you know. It's not a person or a couple, you know. A person, people, you know. I never met any people or any person claiming to me of being a couple of both having the character of being married and claiming the character of both spouses, claiming the character of saving their virginity for the purpose of being married. So, you know, it's very different, you know. It's very different, you know, with other tribes, you know, ways of other teachings. I am not part of it, you know, because my tribe, you know, the tribe of one, you know, the Roman numeral, the number one. My tribe, you know, the tribe of one, you know, believing in the oneness of God, you know. And according to this language, you know, when they say the word God means the one original source, being the one original marriage, being the one originator of where the idea of marriage came from the right way, being the one original husband of the one original marriage, our Father God, Father God, Father God, Father God, and being the one original wife of the first marriage, our Mother God, Mother God, Mother God, Mother God, you know. And since the oneness of God, you know, the oneness of the one marriage from our Father God, Father God, Father God, Father God, and our Mother God, Mother God, Mother God, Mother God, the one original marriage, giving us instructions of saving our virginity for the purpose of being married. I follow the instructions of the oneness of our God, of my tribe, of the teachings given to me, taught to me. You know. And they say, you know, it's very important following instructions given to me, because saving virginity means when a person saves virginity for the purpose of being married, then it means if it's for the purpose of being married, then evidence of a marriage license certificate would be evidence of a marriage. And evidence of a marriage would be evidence of for the purpose of being married. Because if a person said doing it for the purpose of being married, and then said, okay, well then where's your marriage license certificate if you was doing it for the purpose of being married? Then the person would say, here, evidence of a marriage license certificate, which is evidence of for the purpose of being married. And then, you know, a marriage should be good, because a person who saved virginity for the purpose of being married would have no icks. You know, a person who saved virginity for the purpose of being married would have no icks. And they say, what is an icks? When a person claims being the type of person who already had sex with someone else before, who already had a pregnancy made before, you know, whether it was a male who made a pregnancy or whether it was a female who made a pregnancy, or whether it was a pregnancy of a child who lost their life from physically being aborted from an abortion, or whether it was a child who became born or from a dad not being married, or from a mom not being married, or in a single parent household because of someone did not care about for the purpose of being married, and someone made a child born for a single parent household, or for being born for a single dad or a single mom And I don't have any experience myself in those types of situations because I never made anyone a single mom, or I never made a single parent household, you know. And being a male myself, being a male, there is no way of getting another male pregnant from me. So I never made anyone into a single dad either, you know, because it's impossible, you know, is what I was taught. My tribe teaches saving virginity is very important for the purpose of being married, because strangers have had cases of domestic abuse, of violence, and crimes, they say, from when a couple claimed being married and one of the people in the couple did not have a character of saving virginity for the purpose of being married. And so it means one of the people inside of the couple had already had voluntary going all the way 6. And they say the problem would be when the couple was having a bad day. I don't know if it was the guy claiming being the husband, you know, strangers, or the girl claiming being the wife, you know, strangers. So, since the couple of strangers claiming being married have the character of being strangers, then I'm not sure which one of the strangers it was. When those strangers was having a bad day from having sex and claiming being married. They say the problem would be when one of the strangers from the couple said, I've had better sex before anyway. Your sex is not the best I ever had. a person has way better sex than you, so you know what? Instead of being here listening to you and your drama and your stress and your mess, I'm going with the person with sex way better than you and going all the way. And you know what? There's no way of you getting mad if the person I'm going with is one of my exes or one of my baby mamas. You know, is what they say one of the people said. Or, you know, if she said, if it's one of her baby daddies, you know, because since the couple being strangers, I don't know them. If it was the guy claiming being the husband, going with one of his baby mamas or his exes, or if it was, you know, the girl claiming being the wife, claiming going back with her ex or going with one of her baby daddies, you know, one of the people who had got her pregnant before. Or if it was the dude claiming being, you know, the husband, you know, if he was claiming going back with one of the girls he had previously got pregnant before, you know, whether the child was ever born or not, or whether it was an abortion, still claiming a pregnancy was made from voluntary sex one of them had in the past. And then, you know, if the guy got mad and was mad at her because of her attacking him sexually, claiming someone had better sex, claiming she knows because she physically and sexually had sex with some other person. And then, you know, physically it would hurt him because if a person claiming being his wife said that she had sex with some other person, voluntarily she had sex with some other person, voluntarily she got pregnant from some other person, and all of these happened after she met him. After she met him. It would probably feel bad to him, is what I would think. Because feeling mentally hurt would probably be a headache, physically hurting the brain and the head, and being emotionally hurt. Heartbreak would be physical pain, physically hurting the heart and the body, you know, of a person. And, you know, the feelings, hurting a person's feelings. You know, there's no shame in telling the truth. People have feelings, and sometimes feelings hurt, you know. If it was him and he met her, and after she met him, she looked at him and said she could marry him right now, but instead of being a virgin and telling him she saved her virginity for the purpose of being married to him, she said he is not worth her virginity. She would rather go do it to other people, is what she was doing, and then claim to being married to him later. It would probably hurt the dude claiming being the husband, because, you know, he would probably, you know, be thinking like, you know, so you mean to tell me you could have been a virgin with no baby daddy, with no ex, you know, with no ex from you voluntarily having sex with someone else. The only sex you would have ever known is the sex from being married. There would be no one for you saying you've had better or you've had worse. And then that would mean the best sex you ever had would be the only sex you ever had, because the only sex you would ever have known of would be the sex from being married, from saving your virginity for being married. And you throwed it all away just for wanting the feeling of knowing what someone else's going all the way sex felt like. And then making the whole situation worse, after claiming being married, you used your own sexual past as a weapon for hurting your own husband, because you voluntarily claimed telling him intentionally with the idea of hurting him that you've had way better sex with your ex or with your other baby daddy or with someone else, and none of it ever had to happen because when you met him, the one you claim being married to, you could have had a story of from the day you met him, you never had sex with anyone else. Only him. Or you could have had the story of, if you was a virgin, then from the day you met him, you saved your virginity for the purpose of being married to him and never had sex with anyone else. And the only person you ever had sex with was him. They say, you know, the choice of what you do with your virginity is your own choice. And that, you know, a lot of violence from strangers, those couples, you know, the story. And I'm going to talk about the girl because I was telling, you know, being a male myself, it's easier understanding the male part of what a male would think, you know, if claiming being a husband, if someone intentionally was hurting a husband, and the husband, you know, one of those strangers in those situations, when those strangers claimed the title of being married to each other, was in self-defense from being physically hurt, you know, from the heartbreak, physically hurting a heart, mentally hurt, you know, from the mental abuse of someone claiming being with their ex and stuff and giving him a headache and the brain damage and the trauma and, you know, the physical hurt, which is why a lot of males, boys, men, and guys, from being physically hurt, have in self-defense responded with the action of physically hurting the person who intentionally had physically did the job of hurting them, you know. And it's not my fault, you know, because I never had an ex. I saved my virginity for the purpose of being married, you know. So it's not my fault, you know, when those situations of a person claiming to have had better sex and physically hurting the brain of the person, you know, the mental abuse physically hurts the physical brain. So, you know, and claiming loving someone else, you know, and the heartbreak physically hurts the heart, you know, and with all the physical pain, you know, someone intentionally did, you know, those strangers. There's been reports that a lot of those strangers, once being physically hurt, physically responded, you know, saying that if you was hurting him, then it's self-defense. If he was hurting you, if he didn't have an ex from having sex with anyone before, and if he saved his virginity for you, and if he didn't have a baby mama from voluntarily having sex with anyone before, and he saved all his virginity for you, and then you showed up breaking his heart, physically hurting his heart, breaking his mind, physically hurting his brain from the emotional abuse of his feelings and of his effort of loving you, and you physically hurt him, and he ended up snapping and physically hurting you, then it will be your fault for triggering the abuse. Because if when you met him, you had the chance of giving yourself to him, giving your virginity to him, and if you didn't have a virginity, you had the chance of making sure that you could say that from the time you met him, you never had sex voluntarily with anyone at all, proving, you know, to him, you love him. Because you never voluntarily had sex with anyone at all from the first day of meeting him. Is what they say, you know, a girl could have chose with her life choices, you know, those strangers, you know. And, you know, see, I told you I was going to talk about the girl, you know, the strangers, since, you know, a girl was claiming being a wife in one of those couples, you know, and I don't know them, you know. So, you know, they say, and it's the same way when it's a girl. When a guy meets a girl, and then after meeting a girl, you know, if she saved her virginity for the purpose of being married, in love with him, and he did, you know, bad. If they say, you know, he did bad from he met her, and when he met her, after meeting her, he had voluntary going all the way sex with other people who was not her, and he intentionally did it. and she felt bad because of him not loving her the same way she loved him. They say those situations are the same situations, you know, with those strangers when domestic violence and self-defense types of situations have happened. Which is why it's very important saving virginity for the purpose of being married. Because those bad situations with those strangers happened because one of them did not have the character of saving their virginity for the purpose of being married. And one of them was using their own sexual past as a weapon of hurting the person who did save their virginity for the purpose of being married. And what I mean when I say one of the people was using their past of sex as a weapon of hurting the person who did save their virginity for the purpose of being married, they say is okay. I'm gonna say it this way, because you know, since it's very bad doing those types of hurtful, heartbreaking, headache causing physical pain to a person's brain, heartbreaking causing physical pain to a person's heart, all of the physical damage, you know, from when a person has done such evil, bad, abusive, intentional, wrong, it feels bad. And since I don't think like them, you know, it hurts my brain, you know, speaking of such. But speaking of the teachings of what my tribe teaches me of why I never had sex outside of the identity of what my marriage license certificate says my marriage is, then what my tribe taught me of those situations of when a person claims being a wife, you know, one of those strangers from those other couples was claiming being a wife married to some stranger. So, you know, I'm not saying any names, so, you know, there's no reason for being mad at me, since the claiming couple of strangers had problems from not saving their virginity for being married. You know, they say the stranger claiming being the wife of a stranger both of them claim being a married couple. And when both of them claimed being a married couple, the one claiming being the wife was not a virgin. And when she would get mad at the one claiming being her husband, she would say stuff such as, well, she's had better sex with other people anyway, before and after the marriage license certificate. And she's had sex with people with bigger private parts and longer private parts and would last longer in bed and was way better than her husband before and after the marriage license certificate. And it would be a problem because when her husband, you know, the person claiming being her husband, would get mad because she said such physical, hurting his mind, hurting his brain, physically hurting his brain from what she said, hurting his heart, breaking his heart, heartbreak, physically hurting his heart from what she said of his sex, and of her claiming other people of having way better sex than him, and making him mad and angry. And you know, when a person is only human, you know, or when a person has mixed emotions, or, you know, no matter what a person is made of, you know, because, you know, everyone's feelings matter. When a person has been emotionally attacked, they say, hurting a person's feelings, breaking a person's heart, physically hurting a person's heart and chest, the physical pain, physically hurting a person's mind and brain, the mental pain, the mental hurt, physically hurting the physical brain of a person. When a stranger claiming being the wife of someone who's bragging on someone that she actually had sex with. They say it wouldn't matter if it was a lie, if she was just saying stuff because she was mad. It wouldn't matter if she was just making it up or just saying stuff because she was mad. But when it's a person that she actually knows that she had sex with before, when it's a person that's actually her baby daddy that she knows that she's got pregnant with before, or a person that she knows she got pregnant from before, when it's a person that she actually ever voluntarily kissed, when it's a person that she actually ever voluntarily, you know, had sex with, when it's a person that she met after, you know, the person claiming being her husband, when it's a person that, you know, she voluntarily chose being with, then it would physically hurt his heart, it would mentally hurt his brain, and he would feel physically attacked from what she said, and then, you know, snapping and losing control. Sometimes they say a crime of passion. He may have been hitting her or fighting her in self-defense of feeling emotionally attacked, mentally attacked from every angle, and sexually abused because of her trashing his sex and calling him garbage, comparing him sexually to other guys who she voluntarily had sex with. You know, the ultimate pain of being sexually attacked mentally, emotionally, and in a moment of weakness, of self-defense, of lashing out, he may have been hitting her or fighting her and, you know, charged with domestic violence or a crime of passion, wrongfully charged, when all he was doing was self-defense because he was emotionally, mentally, and sexually attacked from someone claiming being his wife, using her mouth as a weapon of verbally attacking him. using her sex life as a weapon of verbally, mentally, emotionally, physically, and sexually attacking him in a way of causing physical hurt, physical pain to his brain from, every time he thinks about it. And why doesn't she love him? And every time he feels the heartbreak, and why doesn't she love him the way that he loves her? And, if he was a virgin, those cases, if the stranger was a virgin who had saved his voluntary sex for the purpose of being married to her, it would probably feel the worst, because if he had the character of saving his voluntary sex for the purpose of being married to her, then went and got a marriage license certificate, and then after getting a marriage license certificate, she began attacking him mentally, emotionally, sexually, and verbally with claims of after she met him, she had sex with her ex. Or after she met him, she claimed having sex and getting pregnant from someone else after she met him. And after she met him, she claimed saying stuff such as, other people had better sex than you anyway. Other people have a bigger private part than you anyway. Other people can satisfy her sexually more than you can anyway. And then, he would probably be like, how? How would you know? And then, if he was like, but the only person I ever had sex with was you. It's not fair. It's not fair for you knowing what his thing feels like, what her stuff feels like, what his thing feels. You've had voluntarily going all the way sex with all of those different people, and the only person I've ever had sex with was you. You've been judging me this whole time and making me feel bad for being a virgin and saving myself for you. You didn't love me the same way I loved you. It's like all of the sex you ever had with me was you sexually abusing me. Is the way it seems the stranger would feel. And if the couple was married or claiming being married for about 10 years, a 10-year period, something about a 10-year or 10 years, 10 years of being abused sexually, mentally, emotionally, physically hurting his brain, physical pain, physically hurting his heart, broken heart, physically being attacked, from her sex. He would probably feel bad, is what I think, And if he was a virgin and he never did any of that stuff to her, I don't know why she would have did any of that stuff to him, And since it's strangers I'm talking about and not mentioning any names, I don't know them, then they say, according to my tribe, speaking of the teachings, my tribe talked to me of why saving virginity for the purpose of being married is very important. Because if she never had sex with anyone and saved her virginity for the purpose of being married, and then if he asked his own wife who has the best sex, she would say, I don't know. And he would say, what do you mean you don't know? Because she would say the only sex she ever had was with the person married to her. She doesn't know if it's the best sex or if it's the worst sex. She only knows it's the only sex she ever had. So it's what sex feels like to her. And they say, it's the same way for the husband. If the husband saved his virginity for the purpose of being married, and his wife asked him, so who has the best sex? He would say the same thing. I don't know. And then if she said, why? What do you mean you don't know who has the best sex? He would say, the only sex he ever had was, sex for the purpose of being married, with the person, claiming being married to him. He doesn't know if it's the best sex or the worst sex. He only knows it's the only sex he ever had. It would be no comparison. Which is why, according to my tribe, when there is no ex and no one for being jealous of, because both having the character of saving their virginity for the purpose of being married would make a perfect couple when he doesn't have a past and she doesn't have a past. The only sex she would know of is the sex she had with the person claiming being married to her. And the only sex he would know of is the sex he had with the person claiming being married to him. Neither one of them would know if it's a such thing as better sex or worse sex. So it would be nothing for being jealous of. They say the only time domestic violence or those bad situations happen from a person being physically hurt, heartbroken, physically hurting a heart, mentally hurt, brain damage from physically hurting the brain, the headache, the pain from thinking of why did the person love someone else instead of loving you the way you loved, the person. They said the only time those situations happen is when someone was having sex outside of the identity of what the marriage license certificate says the marriage is, and tried using the sex as a weapon of telling the other person intentionally for the purpose of hurting the other person and starting fighting and violence and causing drama and stress intentionally, is what they say in those couples, those strangers, those situations, those strangers have had from not saving their virginity for the purpose of being married, they say, are the reasons for those problems happening. Which is why, me, myself, not being one of those strangers, of course, I saved my voluntary going all the way 6 for the purpose of being married. I don't have any experience in having an ex. I don't have any experience in, those types of, strange situations of those strange other couples of being the one having a sex life of outside of the marriage license identity for using as a weapon of sexually hurting someone else, So, it may have been a long answer, but, answering, of the teachings of what my tribe taught to me is what I have been saying, So, I'm not a teacher. I'm not a preacher, you know. I would never want to be a teacher because, you know, I would not want to be the person for being mad at, for being taught wrong, from being the wrong kind of teacher. So, you know, I'm not a teacher. And I would never want to be a leader, you know, outside of my marriage. Because, you know, when people would get mad at being led in the wrong direction from the wrong leaders, leading them in the wrong ways of leading. Which is why I would never, you know, want to be a leader, you know, outside of my marriage. So, you know, answering of what my tribe teaches to me, you know. So, you know, I am not teaching, only answering and sharing what my tribe taught to me. Because, you know, so many others seem to have had a problem with saving their own virginity for the purpose of being married. And I think it was because of them, you know, following some other god of some kind of name or some kind of image or some kind of book. And whatever the other god is, the other tribes or other people were following, it seems that it didn't work. Because if the other god or the other tribe or the books or the names those people were calling was of no effect and wasn't strong enough for any of them to have saved their virginity for the purpose of being married, and then it seems there's no point of calling any of those names or reading any of those books or studying or claiming any of those tribes, you know, for me. Because if none of those tribes or names or any of that stuff ever worked, you know, as far as saving virginity for the purpose of being married, then it seems a waste of time for me. Which is why I myself, believing in my tribe, the tribe of no sex crimes, and the tribe of believing in the God of saving virginity for the purpose of being married, you know, works for me the same way I work for my God and my tribe. With evidence of this gift I am sharing of what my tribe taught to me, instead of keeping secrets in a society where so many people seem to have trouble and problems with saving virginity, and where none of the names or none of the books or where none of the stuff other people have been reading into or calling upon seems to have been, you know, none of the other stuff, all of the other stuff seems to have failed when it comes to saving virginity for the purpose of being married. Which is why I don't even understand why anyone would have ever continued, you know, believing in any of it. Especially once I made these videos and made it publicly known then it's not my fault if anyone was paying attention to anything else and continued calling names and reading books and studying chapters of something which has no success in saving virginity for the purpose of being married. So, you know, since there is evidence of saving virginity for the purpose of being married, and I spoke of a God of saving virginity for the purpose of being married, and since so many churches have preached of a God of saving sex